The motorsports world is reeling from sudden news. Two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Busch has died at 41 years old. The circumstances surrounding his passing are startlingly abrupt. Just 3 days before he was scheduled to take the track for the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Busch was hospitalized with an undisclosed severe illness. There is a sharp disconnect in seeing a man who spent his life defying the laws of physics suddenly stopped by a medical reality. It is a reminder that even at the peak of athletic performance, the body remains fragile. The shockwaves moving through the garage are palpable. Fierce competitors, men who traded paint and punches with him for years, are struggling to process the loss. Fellow champion Joey Logano, a driver who regularly clashed with Kyle Busch, immediately expressed his heartbreak, highlighting the deep respect he held for Busch's talent. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who once feuded with a younger Busch, shared how the two eventually worked to reconcile. They sat down in Busch's motorhome, discussed their differences in managing race teams, and built a genuine friendship. The racing community is grieving more than a fast driver. NASCAR has lost the central figure of its modern era, the man whose performance and personality defined the sport's narrative for 20 years. Busch arrived on the national stage in 2005 as a teenager from Las Vegas. He was loud, confident, and polarizing from his very first start. His nicknames, Rowdy and Wild Thing, came from his actual conduct, post-race altercations, and a refusal to yield to the sport's established veterans. Behind the wheel, his mechanics were fierce. He drove with a raw edge, testing the limits of traction and aerodynamics. This zero-compromise approach put him into the bumpers and the crosshairs of the sport's biggest names. To beat Kyle Busch, the rest of the field had to elevate their own performance. He set a blistering pace that demanded perfection from everyone else on the asphalt. He backed up his abrasive reputation with a natural talent that made it impossible for his critics to dismiss his results. That talent crystallized into hardware during his prime years, securing him the NASCAR Cup Series championships in 2015 and 2019. This chart visualizes 234 victories across NASCAR's 3 national series. These segments represent wins in the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series. While many struggle to win in a single division, Busch mastered vehicles with different weights, horsepowers, and handling profiles. The sheer volume of his success eventually changed the conversation. Over time, the story of the controversial rebel was replaced by the reality of the most successful stock car driver in modern history. His professional path was rarely smooth. Fired early in his career by Hendrick Motorsports, Busch moved to Joe Gibbs Racing and spent 15 years as the face of their program. In the final chapter of his career, he moved to Richard Childress Racing. He stepped into the role of a veteran presence, bringing a champion's perspective to the team. Off the track, he reinvested in the sport's future. Through Kyle Busch Motorsports, he provided the equipment and mentorship that helped develop several of today's top-tier drivers. Most notably, the public watched him grow up. The impulsive teenager matured into a husband to his wife, Samantha, and a dedicated father to their children, Brexton and Lennox. This growth changed the atmosphere around him. By the end of his career, the reflexive boos of his youth had largely given way to the respect reserved for an elder statesman. The timeline of his final weeks makes the loss even harder to grasp. The first signs of trouble emerged during a race at Watkins Glen, where Busch radioed his crew for medical assistance after finishing 8th. Reports indicated he was battling a severe sinus illness. The intense G-forces and elevation changes of the New York circuit placed an immense physical strain on his system. Despite these physical struggles, his talent remained sharp. Just days before his hospitalization, he strapped into a Truck Series entry at Dover and won the race. It is a sobering contradiction. Here was an athlete performing at peak capability on the track, only to face a sudden biological failure days later. We often view athletes through the lens of the feats they perform on Sunday afternoons. A 20-year career of defying physics at maximum speed creates a sense of permanence that makes a sudden death feel wrong. That sense of permanence fueled the loyalty of Rowdy Nation. His fans embraced the uncompromising edge he brought to the track, a passion that eventually won over his harshest critics. Kyle Busch leaves behind a legacy defined by 234 wins and a notable personal evolution. He departs the sport as a winner on the track and a respected figure off of it.